as well. Got loads of people to get through. Dr. Dipesh Gopal and Kay's next. But Gertz has got in touch on Twitter saying, we all know there's a vast evidence of BAME inequality, housing, employment, health, education. We need protective action for more staff and communities, not just evidence. I would be keen to see the equality impact assessments undertaken for the government's action plan against COVID. Strong thoughts there from Gertz, actually. Doesn't really think another inquiry matters as much as action to try and address some of the inequalities in housing, employment, health and education as well. Is that something you think needs to happen more? 81869, let me know. Right, so, Kay is going to come to you in a moment. But first, Dr. Dipesh Gopal, how are you doing?
I'm well. How are you, Casper?
Yeah, I'm actually good. Sorry, I was just pausing there for a moment just to think, am I well? Yeah, I am well. I keep checking my temperature every day. I'm paranoid, but it's exactly the same. It's fine, so it's all good. Yeah, so tell me, what are your thoughts then on this? Why do you think Black and Asian people are more affected?
I think a lot of really good points are being made, I think, by a lot of the doctors and a lot of the members of the public who have called in and talked about the different factors. Just sort of zooming out a little bit, it's important to probably have a zoomed out perspective. This isn't the first time we've noted sort of poor outcomes in minority backgrounds. If we look at, there's a number of sort of reports to do with poor outcomes from, unfortunately, mums dying, and there's an inquiry that looks into why particularly mums have died in pregnancy and soon after pregnancy. And we know disproportionately that Afro-Caribbean women are 6 times more likely to die and 4 times more likely to die for South Asian mums. But the inquiries have been done, but then there's sort of been a little bit of a vague attribution of what actually could be done. And then sort of moving on to why, trying to get to your question, there's along the medical community, there was a lot talking about different types of receptors in different communities and the vitamin D. And that, what we would call probably genetics/biology. We know that probably only affects maybe 10, maybe 20% of a person's health, but it's definitely the socio-economic factor, the social factor that we live in, the housing, the money, education, work, etc. That's like 70, 80%, because you can imagine that's what we're interacting with the whole time. And what we've noted over the last 10 years is that partly correlationally towards the way cuts have been made, that the gap between the richest and poorest populations has been increasing. And we know that the poor people in the poorest backgrounds, they live 10 to 20 years shorter than those in the wealthiest backgrounds. And we know that our ethnic minorities often are disproportionately represented in the poorest backgrounds. So there is an element of, I think some people alluded to responsibility, but if you don't have a choice to make about lifestyle where you live, for example, you're not in control of those factors, how can you possibly make that choice? It's an interesting debate. I mean, those are sort of that things have actually got worse in terms of the socioeconomic factors, and that's going to play a role. But I agree that the cultural, the language, those are also important things, and the lack of PP in the front line, of course, as well.
Yeah, let's Kays, I will come to you in a moment. Thank you for waiting. I'm really looking forward to talking to you because I need to spend a bit of time with you, actually. But just one more point from you, Dr. Gopal, on that point about poverty. That's not being talked about enough, I don't think. And there is a link between ethnic minorities and poverty, more proportionally in poverty than other backgrounds, white backgrounds, for examples, as well. So is that a thing that we need to talk about here as well? Not so much just ethnicity, but also poverty here.
Yeah, I think we do. I think the fact of the matter is that, I mean, there was a report that came out 10 years ago that said, poverty is a big problem. That's one of the biggest problems in our society. That I'm not saying that there won't be inequality. There will always be differences between rich and poor, and that's inevitable. But back to they had been increasing 10 years ago when they looked at the data, and they've done it again this year. The same report saying it's getting worse, and it's something that we don't talk about. It's the classic rhetoric is that people who are poor make poor choices. No, that's not true. If you do talk to people from not well-off backgrounds, and they do struggle, and it's because of they have a lack of a choice. They can't make the choices. If you don't have a choice to make, you can't make a choice to get out of poverty. It's a lack of choices rather than they've chosen to make bad decisions.
And an example of that is people being ordered to stay at home, stay safe. But
Exactly.
if you can't afford to live, if you have to make ends meet, if you have to buy your bread, your dal, whatever, and you got no money coming in, then you're more likely to go out and carry on being a taxi driver or whatever your job is. And people might look at that from the outside and say, that's a poor decision because you were told to stay at home. But then what's the underlying context to that?
Yeah, I mean, just to make a counterpoint, just to back up what you're saying, if you look at, the report that came out was in February, and it talked about one thing about, making poor choice about lifestyle choice, and it does come up a lot. If you come from the poorest background, the poorest 10%, 80% of your income that were required to produce, to get food that was healthy, 80% of your income would be used to buy that healthy food. Now, that's not sustainable. That's not possible. If you're a single mum with 3 kids and you've got to spend 80% of your income on healthy food and that's not going to last very long when you've got rent, you've got to pay these bills, all these sorts of things. Your money isn't going to go that far. So you're not going to make people know about these healthy choices. The fact of the matter, is it feasible? Is it possible? And those are important points to make. And the fact of the matter is that all the things that support the poorer families, the cuts have been made. They've happened at the same time that inequality has widened. And I don't think we talk about it enough. And we have been banging on the doors of the government. People from all walks of life, not just the medical profession, but we're banging on the door for a long time. And we really need them to listen. We need to talk about it in society.
Well, hopefully this is something now that it is going to be a proper inquest, so hopefully it's not something that's diluted down over time. Dr. Gopal, thank you for getting in touch and for being on the programme. Really appreciate it. 3 minutes past 12. A host